Hello, 11th graders, and welcome to our new lesson. Today I'm starting a new unit with you, Human Values and Rights. The lesson we're going to discuss today is the second one, Domestic Violence Law in Lebanon, Good but Incomplete. Okay, domestic violence refers to violence that takes place at home among the husband, the wife, the children. Okay, and it's usually the husband against the wife or the husband against the children. In this selection in particular, we speak about domestic violence of husbands against women. But before we go to that, let's begin this lecture by answering a few important questions about human rights. Now, what are 10 basic human rights? Can you name 10 basic human rights? Okay. 2. When and where were they agreed upon? How many nations signed the agreement? And number 3, how do you view the implementation of human rights in your country with regards to women? Which ones are upheld, which ones are not? Okay, now the 10 basic human rights. You have the right to marriage and family, right to own your own things, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, you can say what you want without being violated, the right to public assembly and protests peacefully, of course, the right to democracy, voting and choosing your own representatives and members of the government, workers' right, if you're a worker, you have the right to equal pay and fair treatment, fair working hours, food and shelter, you have the right to eat and be sheltered, you have the right to education, and you have the right to be secure and free of any physical and mental violation against you. Okay? Now, when and where have the above mentioned rights been agreed upon? When the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a historic document that was adopted by the UN General Assembly on December 10, 1948 in Paris, France. Now, 192 countries, including Lebanon, signed this declaration. They signed all of it, meaning that they agreed to all its content. These rights do not distinguish between genders, so males and females have equal rights. Okay, both males and females need to feel secure. Both males and females have the right to marriage and to own their property and to education, equal rights. Now this brings us to our third question. How do you view the implementation of those rights in your country with regards to women? Which ones are upheld, which ones are not? Now, women do have certain rights, like the right to vote and own property in Lebanon. Okay, they're entitled to that. No issues generally. However, when it comes to civil rights, like having full custody of a child or giving citizenship to her children, that is totally not allowed. Moreover, laws regarding domestic violence in Lebanon are somewhat lax and incomplete. There is a law that came into place in 2014, but it is generally incomplete and it has a lot of holes in it. Okay? So let's start reading the article about domestic violence in Lebanon. It's called Domestic Violence Law in Lebanon, Good but Incomplete. Read the following article in which the writer sheds light on the increasing number of victims of domestic violence in Lebanon. When you are through with the reading, answer the questions that follow. Paragraph 1. Nada Bahlawan was shot and killed by her husband at dawn on January 22 in Beirut. The same day, a man stabbed his wife in South Lebanon after a dispute over doing the dishes. On December 16, British diplomat Rebecca Dykes was raped and murdered. 9 women were killed in December and January by their fiancés or husbands. There seems to have been a rise since Dykes was killed, feminist activist Maya Ammar told Al Monitor. She and others held a vigil in front of Beirut's National Museum on January 23. In the last week of December, 4 women were killed. The night we organized the vigil about violence against women, we learned about Malak Muqdad, who was stabbed to death by her husband. 2 days later, a woman killed herself because she couldn't handle the violence at home, Ammar added. On January 6, Zarifa Zed was stoned to death and her body was found on a beach in South Lebanon 5 days later. Her husband admitted to having committed an honor killing. A woman and her baby were found dead on January 12, killed by repeated blows to the head. Rida Anani, the director of ABAAD, a non-governmental organization, NGO, that fights for gender equality, told Al Monitor, with the absence of national statistics on domestic violence in Lebanon and monitoring mechanisms, we cannot confirm for sure if domestic violence crimes are rising. So according to the author in paragraph 4, there are no clear statistics in Lebanon. And this could be generally due to the fact that many women who are violated do not actually speak about it. Paragraph 5, she added, what can be confirmed for certain is a rise in women's awareness about reporting domestic violence incidents, seeking help outside their social and family spheres, and disclosing what happened to them, telling out with it, as the stigma around gender-based violence has broken thanks to the persistent efforts of women's movements and campaigns in the last decade. However, Minister of Women's Affairs Jean Agasapian told Al Monitor, the people working in specialized associations and NGOs say that at least 12 women die annually, yearly, as a result of their husband's violence. It was not the first time that we've had no cases for 2 months. And then 5 in a week, Ammar said, because people can now see the situation is changing. Women no longer accept violence and discrimination. There is some resistance and backlash from some men who want to prove they still have power in an extreme way. Paragraph 8. Women are seeking support from the ABAAD-affiliated Model Community Holistic Care Center, which provides safe spaces for women in the North, Bekaa Valley, South, Beirut, and Mount Lebanon provinces. The centers were established in partnership with the Ministry of Social Affairs. Based on that and on the number of women turning to these emergency safe houses, Anani observed that violence against women in 2017 seems to be changing in nature. There's more sexual violence reported than physical and psychological violence, and murders are more common than in previous years. The civil society NGO Lebanon Support and the feminist organization Kafa, Enough, developed a map to display statistics on violence against women per year. Law 293 was adopted in April 2014 to address domestic violence, but several organizations have criticized it for being incomplete. Human Rights Watch said after the law passed that it has serious flaws and the Parliament should consider amendments, improvements, to fully protect women from domestic violence. The law defines domestic violence very narrowly. Doesn't criminalize marital rape. It doesn't criminalize it, except if physical violence can be proven. Protection orders are a difficult and lengthy process to obtain. Okay, paragraph 10. According to recent NGO reports on the Lebanese judicial system, the number of unofficial documented cases of women killed as a result of family violence crimes since Law 293 was passed reached 40, and the number of official protection orders issued to date exceeds 500, Agasapian said. The work done by the judges is very encouraging since the law passed. They answer to these women with efficiency. CAFA Media and Communication Officer Diala Haidar told Al Monitor, "We have been campaigning in the media and social networks for years, and now women are becoming more aware. But the media shouldn't hesitate to call these crimes femicides." Okay? When you see CIDE at the end, it means killing of women, and should stop being apologetic toward the killer, like we see sometimes. CAFA has been collaborating with the Ministry of Justice to amend Law 293 with a draft proposition that was accepted by the government in August 2017. They are now waiting for the vote by Lebanese Parliament. In light of all these recent crimes, we hope the vote will be pushed forward, Haidar said. The draft amendments will improve the implementation of the law. For example, with a faster process for a protective order, stricter penalties, and immediate custody rights for the mother in cases of domestic violence. The Ministry of Women also started to develop an action plan for gender equality. "We are in the process of developing a national strategy on gender-based violence," Ogasapian said. "It will be developed with an action plan and a monitoring process and be submitted for implementation with the relevant stakeholders." He added, "We are conducting a study on the economic cost of gender-based violence in Lebanon. It will result in the development of policies to prevent violence against women." Ogasapian insisted that the ministry is taking the issue of women's rights very seriously, with 7 draft laws processed in a year. 3 draft laws were approved by the Council of Ministers and now sent to the Parliament for approval. 1 against sexual harassment, 1 granting paternity leave, and another for equal privileges in social security funds. We are also supporting all the amendments proposed to Law 293. Even if the draft amendments are passed and applied quickly, some fear the Lebanese justice system is too slow to prosecute these crimes fast enough for the victims' families. Rola Yaoub's murderer still hasn't faced a judge since 2013, Haidar pointed out. This needs to change. Okay, this brings us to our first group of questions, comprehension questions related to the text. Answer each of the following questions in 1 to 4 sentences using your own words. Based on paragraph 7, what is the reason leading to domestic violence? Okay, let's take a look at those. Based on paragraph 7, what is the reason leading to domestic violence? Go back to the paragraph and we see men need to show they are more powerful than women and are still in control despite women's fight against discrimination. Based on paragraph 9, explain the flaws or the mistakes, or the holes in Law 293 include. As reported by Human Rights Watch. According to Human Rights Watch, Law 293 lacks criminalizing marital rape, which means that a violated wife cannot report being raped by her husband unless she could prove physical violence. In addition to that, it usually takes a long time to get protection from the husband. Question number 3, how does CAFA believe the media is responsible as mentioned in paragraph 11? CAFA believes women have become more aware because of the media. Okay, it should start using the word femicide or feminicide, referring to crimes against women, and the organization also believes the media should reveal actual blame. Okay, should be clear on that, to the husbands and the killers. Now, let's move on to the pronoun reference. Based on the indicated paragraphs, what does each of the following words underlined in the text refer to? They in paragraph 11, go to paragraph 11, they in paragraph 11 refers to the judges. 1 in paragraph 15 refers to draft law. Okay. Now, organizational skills questions, very, very important. What type of introduction does the writer use? Explain. I displayed the paragraph here for you so that we could go through it together. Nada Bahlawan was shot and killed by her husband at dawn, January 22 in Beirut. Obviously, the author is giving us a story, a shocking story, a brief narration of a woman who was stabbed. Okay, why does the author do that? He mentions actual names of incidents reporting domestic violence, shocking the reader with these scary facts in order to attract his or her attention. So the writer starts with an anecdote or a brief narration in order to catch the reader's attention and make them curious to read more about the story and the main idea of the text, which is domestic violence. Now, what is the thematic relation between paragraphs 4 and 5? Let's take a look at paragraphs 4 and 5. Ghida Anani here was talking with the absence of national statistics on domestic violence in Lebanon and monitoring mechanisms. We cannot confirm for sure if domestic violence crimes are rising. She added, okay, this is a key word here, what can be confirmed for certain is a rise in awareness among women about reporting domestic violence incidents, etc. So here she's adding more ideas to her previous ones. So the thematic relation between paragraphs 4 and 5 is that of addition, support, and reinforcement. The writer adds in paragraph 5 to the quote depicted from Ghida Anan, and she uses the expression "and she adds" to support her idea about domestic violence in Lebanon. Okay. Question number 3 in the organizational skills. Identify 2 different tones in paragraphs 15 and 16. Explain with a piece of evidence for each adjective. You choose an adjective and you justify it with evidence. Let's take a look at paragraph 15. Olga Sapian insisted that the ministry is taking the issue of women's rights very seriously with 7 draft laws. This sounds promising. 3 draft laws were approved by the council, etc. So here the tone is encouraging and promising. Okay, in paragraph 15, the tone seems promising, for she mentions that the ministry is taking the issue of women's rights seriously. Yet moving on to paragraph 16, even if the draft amendments or improvements are passed and applied quickly, some fear the Lebanese justice system is too slow to prosecute these crimes fast enough for the victims' families. So again, in paragraph 16, she reveals some pessimism for the Lebanese justice system is too slow to prosecute these crimes. So those are 2 very different tones. For each one, we had to give 1 piece of evidence. What 3 types of evidence does the writer use to achieve credibility? Provide examples. The writer uses real victims' names and women activists as Nada Bahlawani and Ghida Anani. Okay, so you add credibility when you mention real names, real life examples. She also uses dates of violent incidents as January 22 and finally, so this is 1, dates, 2, and finally quotes of reporters from experts and activists. So this in order to add credibility and achieve credibility. Okay. Here you can add any of the quotes that were given in the text. Okay, now chart analysis. The following bar graph shows the number of domestic violence cases between 2002 and 2010. Read it carefully and then answer the questions that follow. Okay, let's take a look here. 2002, these are the numbers. 2002, it's 30, as you see. 2003, 22. 2004, also 22. There's a plateau here, little increase, and then there's a plateau, and then it moves up and then up in 2006, and then down down, plateau, and then it starts to move up again. So it's not stable. We cannot really get a clear picture. Is it increasing? Is it on an increase, or is it on a decrease? It's not. So what does the bar graph above indicate about the number of domestic violence cases reported between 2002 and 2010? First part, you have to give me the topic sentence taking straight from here. The bar graph shows the number of domestic violence cases between 2002 and 2010. The number, okay, so this is it. You got the first part correct. The number of domestic violence cases fluctuated between the years 2002 and 2010. It started with 30 cases in 2002 and decreased to 22, only to rise again to 33 in 2006. The number then dropped until it reached 20 by 2008-2009. In 2010, it rose again to 26 cases per year. So this is our analysis here. What do we conclude? Thus, we conclude that the number of domestic violence cases in this time period isn't stable, it's fluctuating. So we cannot really get a clear idea if awareness campaigns or if laws are making any improvements, or it's gonna be just fluctuating all the time. Okay, remember, 3 parts to this sort of question, please. Moving on to part D, the extracts. Remember, after having written the main idea of each paragraph next to it, into extract A, in 2017, 12 women have been killed, 5 more than in 2016, most of them victims of their husband, ex-husband, fiance, or boyfriend. Remember the paragraph where they were talking about the deaths of women. The extract B, the data shows that a growing number of women know they can be protected and don't hesitate to ask for help. The paragraph where they were talking about rising awareness among women. So extract A is the correct ending of paragraph 8. Okay. Full sentence. Extract B is the correct ending of paragraph 10. If you go back and reread those paragraphs and continue reading here, you will see that they perfectly match. And this is what you need to do in order to finally check whether your answer is correct. Okay, let's move on to the last part of our lecture, vocabulary words. Use contextual clues to figure out the meaning of each word below, and then fill in the blanks with the correct words to complete the sentences that follow. The words are bold typed in the text. Domestic, we said that refers to something related to the home. Stigma, a certain scar. Backlash, a certain reaction, okay, against something. Province, an area. Amendments, improvements. Amending, improving, making better. Okay, let's take a look at number 1. Corruption has created a huge, scaring the government from further riots, huge backlash, reaction. The villagers, number 2, the villagers were fighting with chivalry to keep their country part of the capital province or area. Okay, part, capital, context clues. Peaceful relations are a priority to keep family united. When you see family, that means something related to domestic home. Finally, the of having gone to prison will always be with me, stigma or scar. Okay. So this is it regarding this lesson. We will discuss these further when we meet on Zoom next time. So go through it thoroughly, please. Make sure you go through all the skills and the new vocab words. Take care and see you soon.